We've all had one of those bonehead moments before. Forgetting to duck while getting to the car and we end up bumping our heads, walking while texting and then end up running into something head first, or my personal favorite of when I was in the 7th grade going in for that stressful first kiss and we ended up bumping heads against each other. All of those situations cause us to utter that famous four-letter word, ouch. But I don't think the damage is done after all of that. Football players are putting themselves at risk to hits like to the head like these every day, and these can damage the brain long after their playing days are over. Many of them just write it off as getting their bell rung, but many of these players are sustaining concussions that they have no idea about. The main reason why football players receive severe concussions is because they never report anything out of the ordinary when the concussion is in its early stages. According to a survey done by the Clinical Journal of Sports Medicine, out of the 1,532 high school varsity football players observed, 66% reported that the main reason they did not report an injury to anyone was because they did not feel that it was serious enough to require medical attention. This is a very common mistake made by many young football players. However, this is how concussions become worse. Players need to inform a coach, a trainer, or really anyone who will listen to them to make sure that the injury can be checked out and determine what kind of head injury we're dealing with. When these injuries go uninformed and become worse over time, players can develop what doctors call a traumatic brain injury, or a TBI. TBIs can lead to long-term disabilities later in life. According to a study done by the Journal of the American Medical Association, 1 million new cases of TBI occur in the United States each year, and about 10% of those cases develop long-term disabilities. The rate of TBI is being diagnosed more than multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and Alzheimer's disease combined. This is cause for concern because we've only been paying attention to TBI for about 20 years. Personally, I've dealt with a concussion firsthand, and there's no messing around when it comes to head injuries. I was playing in a football game last year when I went helmet to helmet with the player on the other team. I knew I had a headache, but didn't really have time to worry about it since we were in the middle of the game. Luckily, it was towards the end of the game, and I went to the athletic trainer after the game to get my head checked out, and the consensus was that I had a mild concussion. Those words really changed my life forever that night. Thankfully, I was one of the lucky few that reported my headache, and I was able to stop the damage before it could get any worse. Others aren't so lucky. Players of the National Football League are prime examples of those affected by long-term brain injuries. Take Junior Seau, for example, a great linebacker for many years, good person on and off the field, and recently retired as one of the greatest of all time. He was basically the last person you would expect to be suffering from any demons or scary thoughts. But on May 2nd, 2012, Seau's girlfriend found him dead in his home from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. An autopsy was done on his body, and doctors found that his brain suffered from chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. CTE is a progressive disease in the brain that results from many concussions and head injuries over time and can only be diagnosed post-mortem. CTE causes brain damage and includes depression as one of its many symptoms. Seau was never officially listed as having a concussion in his career, but his ex-wife admitted to saying that he suffered many during his playing days. Seau never reported to a medical professional that he had received a concussion and continued to play, which in turn could have cost him his life. Many deceased NFL players have been found to suffer from CTE themselves during their lifetimes. Our brains aren't meant to take a punishment like that. Concussions aren't a normal thing that should happen to human beings on a regular basis, and I'm a first-hand example that can attest to that. I only had one concussion in my life, and I could never imagine the pain and suffering that others have gone through long after their playing days are over. But concussions can be treated before they get worse. Talk to a medical professional if anything in your head feels different after taking a hit. It could be potentially life-saving, and the difference between dying at 40 or dying at 80. The silent epidemic is making shockwaves all over the United States, but it can be stopped. Thank you.